Hi, I'm Traci Brooks. Welcome to our barn here, our winter home at the Desert International Horse Park. We're going to do a little behind the scenes and give you a little barn tour. So let's go. This is sort of a gathering area where everyone comes in, drops their stuff, hangs out, visits, has a snack, rests between classes. The kids come here, they love to come and jump. We have the people jumps, and this is always busy during the afternoons before and after they show. They set courses, they do gymnastics, they lunge themselves. It's great. So this has been our barn for about the past 7 or 8 years, and every year we make improvements to it, including, for instance, we put in this stamped concrete a few years ago. We put up the screens, the shade screens. This year we did the planters with the tall trees. The front is landscaped. It's all irrigated, but this whole place does not look like this when we arrive. It looks kind of scary when we get here in November. I have a little bit of a stroke thinking how we're going to put it all back together. It's dead. Everything looks pretty dead. Even though the grass is irrigated, it gets so hot here in the summer. We do have people looking after it for us while we're gone, which helps, and it comes back pretty quickly. But everything's covered in dust. Everything is brown. So we start with power washing the barn, and we usually do that before we come in November. And then when we're here in November, we don't set up 100% like we do when we're here from January till March, but we start the process of thinking about cleaning it up and getting it ready for the circuit in January. So that involves power washing everything, redoing the stalls, adding DG, tamping it down, replacing the rubber mats, anything that the weather or the sun eats or just has wear and tear, we do right before we come in November. And then the stretch after we're here in November, December, that month, we do some projects and start to get it looking more like this. But it's a process. Our guys come out probably 3 or 4 days before the horses in January, and that's when they do the final odds and ends. They make sure everything is clean, any sort of repairs that need to be done, bed all the stalls, hang all the water buckets, and then the horses usually arrive about a week before they show. We'll go down the center aisle first. Here we go. So as you enter the barn, there's a dressing room here on the left, which we'll go in and check out, and an office on the right. This barn was obviously just stalls. It was 32 stalls to start, and we've reconfigured some of the stalls to make things more efficient and more workmanlike for us and all of our staff so they can do the best that they can getting the horses ready. So come on in. This is the dressing room. So when everyone arrives, they usually come in here first and drop their stuff. This is if they need to change clothes, take a nap, get a water. This is where they would come to change. So this was just a stall. We just kind of reconfigured, made a little vestibule for changing clothes so you can have a little bit of privacy. This is this funny piece of art that we just like. It gives a little levity when you first walk in. If someone's nervous, at least it makes them crack a smile when they arrive. So that's the dressing room. And then as we come back out, over here is this is another little storage area. If you need some sugar, if you need a little sugar rush, this is the sugar stash. Always good to know. This is a little office that mostly I use for doing paperwork, having a moment of private conversation if I need to chat with someone. It's a way to get out of the weather, somewhere where it's quiet, somewhere where it's not dusty or loud. So I do my homework in here. I do a lot of paperwork, splits, entries, billing, schedules for the next day. We have a copier in here so that when we do the time schedules for the next day, we can make plenty of copies so everyone can have a copy to put in their pocket so they know where to be and when. That's super helpful, having the copier. This is a picture from our recent trip to Africa, which when I come in here makes me happy. So that's nice. And that's pretty much it. This room, it stays the whole year and we just lock it up. We did put a ceiling in it to try to avoid some dust and noise. So that was part of the modification. This year we painted it, just to give it a little facelift. But it stays pretty well. And all this just gets closed up when we leave. We do store some other stuff in here and we put a door on it. So this was a stall, obviously, but we kind of chopped it up and made the little entry area and a little door that we can lock. And then we also left a sliding stall door, so that gets locked as well. So when we leave, this becomes storage. Really, everything becomes storage when we leave. All the doors close and lock. And there's stuff that we only use here. A lot of the furniture we only use here. It lives here. It gets locked up. So we're here 2 weeks in November and about 10 weeks January through March. So a lot of this stuff is just specific to thermal. As we come this way, we come into the working barn area. So all of our horses actually don't fit in this barn anymore. So we have a lot of horses here, and then in the barn next door, we also have stalls. So when we get down there, I'll show you the map of how we keep track of where they all are. So something to point out is we've modified all the stalls a bit too. So we do the kickboards so that the shavings stay in the stalls. The rubber mats, obviously, there are rubber mats on the floors with DG underneath. Every year, we pretty much have to go in and add DG and flatten everything out and redo it. We put mangers in all the stalls for a few different reasons. A, it keeps the hay all in one place so they're not dragging it around. B, it makes them kind of put their head down, eat off the ground, all that kind of stuff. We do move the horses because if they're putting their head down and they have one leg forward in one stall, we don't want them with the same leg forward every time they're eating. So we'll move that. We'll kind of rotate the stalls often so they're eating with a different leg forward so they don't get too one-sided. We bank the shavings up on the side and all that so that they're less likely to get cast if they're lying down at night. They all have the Himalayan salt blocks because here in the desert it gets a little dry, so we want to make sure we keep them drinking. So even though we give them electrolytes in their food, we also do the Himalayan pink salt in the stalls. And we're not big fans of hanging the blankets on the outside of the stall, so we just create a little simple little tie situation, just a cotton rope that just has a loop, and we just tie the blankets up in the corner of the stall before we take the horses out. Every stall has a fan. The weather here can be very extreme. This morning it was 37, and then sometimes by the afternoon it's 90. So all the stalls have fans as well. Okay, and then we get into the grooming area. So this is a full-size grooming stall that we've left completely full. This is a stall where sometimes if we're doing therapies, magnetic blanket, things like that, laser, that if you need to move around a little more, then this stall has more room and it's conducive to that. This is where the braider, all of her tails live here. Bailey, our braider, who's amazing. She's very organized. So she has tails for every horse, and they're all labeled. Some aren't there right now because she's here all night braiding the horses, so they're already in the horses that are showing today. So that's where the tails live. They get washed and conditioned and treated periodically. So those are fun. And then this is Ditto. This is Record Year. He's a 3-foot green hunter. He had a good week this week. He's a fun one. He's a good boy. And then some of the grooming stalls, as you'll see here, we've split into two. So this is more like a normal grooming stall that you would see. This is similar to what we have at home in size, so that we can just fit 2 horses in. And it's easy for them to come in because they can just come in. This is open, so they can just turn around. They can get their head over, and this is how we maximize our space here. So this seems to work really well for us, being able to do 2 at a time. There are fans in here as well. But this is sort of the working area. And we have a few of these. So we've converted, I think, 2 or 3 stalls into 2 grooming stalls. So, and then we come down this way. Here's our board. So this is sort of command central. This is where we do the list for the whole day, what's going on the whole day, from all the horses, which horse is going to the turnout. We have turnout paddocks here, which is really nice. which horse might be getting a little lunge in the morning. And when we lunge the horses, it's not so much to get them tired, it's to let them stretch. We're not big proponents of going fast in a small circle, so it's mostly on a really long lunge line just to let them loosen up, take a breath. Horses getting ridden and the times. Sometimes it's noted on here who's riding them, which horses are showing, which horses are getting bandaged, what they're getting bandaged with, which horses are getting iced. It's all on here. Some of our horses showing cocks, which horses are getting cocks. Here's braiding list. So these are the horses that are showing today. And these are the horses that are getting magnetic therapy today, a list for that. Ride list, who's riding which horse they're starting with, what time they're starting. So everything is organized. We do this the night before. Carlton actually is usually in charge of that. Doing all of this takes about 2 hours when we finish showing. So once our day is over and we leave the show ring, we have at least 2 more hours back here at the barn making these lists. Carlton and I usually confer on sort of what the horses are gonna do, if any of them need to do something in the morning, get ridden before they show, anything like that. So that's the whole day. Then we have a schedule here marked with which horse does which class, which ring, and then this is a time schedule of just today, what time all the classes are starting, how many are in each. We make copies of these. They go in every golf cart so that everybody knows where they're supposed to be and when. Everyone has one in their pocket. What time horses are meant to be at the ring is listed here as well. So this is kind of for the guys knowing not just what time the class starts, but actually what time the horse is going to be there. This is night watch. They come every hour in the evening, all through the night when it's freezing. They're amazing. Check every horse. Here it says, one horse has a bump that might be a bite. So we read this first thing in the morning and we know which horses we need to check. If something is really amiss, they call us, and they're amazing. And there have been things that they've caught where a horse has had a stomach ache and needed to go to the hospital, and they're really awesome with that. If a horse's blanket is unclipped, they'll clip the blanket. If a horse has, spilled his water, they'll refill it. So we can kind of rest easy knowing that somebody's watching all night. Along with our braider, Bailey, and all of her staff, they're usually here all through the night braiding. So someone really is here 24 hours a day, which is great. So that's that. And then we get into another board, which has a list of all the horses who are here, which horses, we switch out a lot of horses each week. So which horses are going home, which horses are coming. Again, all the rings, which horses are going to which ring, at what time, which horses are getting chiropractic today. So this is the brain right here. This is where all the information is. So if you have a question, you come here first and you can kind of figure it out. Then we get into storage. I call this the guys' room. They keep all their tricks in here. They have a full-size refrigerator because they work hard and they need to stay healthy and eat. So they come in here, they eat, they have a microwave, can do all that. This is just storage of like saddle pads, coolers, some turnout blankets and sheets, and just sort of random stuff. This is actually really interesting. It gets very dusty here, so we try to cover everything that we can. So we have our coolers. These are our coolers that go to the ring on the horses. And at night, we can just drop it down and cover it, which is great. So we try to do the best we can to keep everything clean. It's not always easy. We have sort of more information here. This is a list of all the horses that are here and what equipment they wear. So certain horses have special equipment. It's which saddle goes on which horse, which girth, what size girth, what kind of wraps they get for working. Some horses get just normal polo wraps. Some horses get escadron support wraps. Whether they go in cotton or not. Some horses are fine with cotton. Some horses like the little more pom-pom type earplugs. Some of them get the rubber ones, so that's noted here as well. Which horses get iced after they work, and which horses get something special. This horse, for instance, wears a non-slip pad and a chamois girth because the saddle slips a little bit. It's a pony and it's a little bit wide with a low wither, so certain things like that. horse up here, no hind wraps at night. He doesn't like to wear hind wraps. It makes him kick. So certain things just so that everyone remembers, because it's hard to just keep track. So if you can't remember, you just look here. This is a map of where all the horses live. This can tend to get a little messy because we have horses coming and going week to week and moving around as well. So this starts from the front of the barn where we came in. Here's the office and the dressing room. And then this is where we are now, tack room and cross tie area. So this is the names of all the horses. We have horses stabled in another barn. So these are the horses that are over in the other barn right now, which is mostly ponies this week we put over there. So that's that. And then we come in, and this is our work tack room. It's not fancy, but we try to maximize the space, make it efficient, fit everything in here. We're able to just close the door and lock it at night. We do put a board here so that obviously the bars are covered up, so everything is secure at night. This is all board in here as well. So work bridles in the center here. Show bridles here on the side. We always keep the number with the bridle so that it doesn't get lost. Because if you're wearing your number and then you go to get something to eat and you take your coat off and you put your number on the table, it gets lost. So our motto is the number stays with the bridle or the horse. So that's how that goes. Pony bridles live along that side. Horse bridles here, show bridles. Anything special like this is for a jumper, so his jumper girth and his running martingale are here as well. The jumper numbers stay on the breastplate or martingale. Girths over there, all labeled for size. This might be a different conversation, but we can talk about the girths. We get a lot of questions about our girths. These are the wide leather girths that we use. Carlton can probably speak better about this, but the wide leather girths we use because they cover 2 ribs and they don't pinch. We also use a lot of string girths, and people ask us a lot why we use the string girth. The string girth gives sort of equal pressure. If you have a horse that's sensitive in its belly or its sternum, it's more equal pressure around the whole body, whereas the leather girth could have more of a pressure point at the bottom and pinch a little bit. Equal pressure, they also have a little bit of give all the way around. So the horses seem to like them. Also, if your horse, like some people have a horse that has a tendency to get sores, they'll kind of squeeze in, so then they're soft, so your horse won't get a sore. So we like these. They're a little bit of labor because you have to wash them quite often, but it's easy. You just wash them and leave them out to dry, and they're easy. And they're old school, and they're inexpensive. They're a little hard to find now, but they're, I don't know, $20 each, and we love them. The bridles. We have amazing people who work for us who take great care of the tack, and they are constantly scrubbing the white rubber reins. They use everything from OxyClean to SOS to a gentle bleach, but it's hard because sometimes if you put too much solvent on here, they get a little gooey and rubbery. So they use ivory. They kind of mix and match, but they have to stay on it. Yeah, they're constantly doing it. And the rubber reins, they do have to be replaced. Yeah. They do. They'll go for, I would say, 6 months, and then we replace them. Yeah. Yeah, they start to yellow, and they'll get a little gummy and sticky. Extra bits down here, horse bits, pony bits. So if we have a horse showing during the day at some point, we'll say, oh, we should probably try him in a different bit. We'll either make a note, and that gets done at the end of the day, or we'll text somebody back here and say, hey, please pull out XYZ bit and put it with so-and-so's bridle. Because that's something that we do because things get forgotten. We're going so many different directions during the day, and we make mental notes, but we also, Carlton, he writes a lot of things down. I take notes in my phone so that we don't forget things. So we're always kind of playing with different bits.
Can you open one of those up?
Yeah. Yeah, because these are... So we're in the bits now, and the bits, we try to keep them pretty organized. It's not always easy. Full cheek, slow twist. This ball bits. full cheek rubber snaffles, leather D-rings, full cheek plain snaffle, whistle bits. So everything is labeled. Egg butt snaffles, more regular full cheek snaffles, lots of regular full cheek snaffles. Full cheek rubber, broken, not to be confused with full cheek rubber straight, full cheek ball. So we have our own bit store, basically. Our own bit store, our own tack room, tack shop. But that's a lot of times on Monday, what happens is this gets reorganized because we come whipping in here on the weekend and somebody's in a rush and pulls something out and doesn't always get put back the way it's supposed to. So Mondays are a big day here for regrouping, reorganizing. They're not a day off at all. So Monday's a big getting organized for the next week, cleaning up from last week. Yeah. So let's see what else we can find. Okay. Here we have magnetic therapy happening. This is Ditto. He's getting a little magnet before he goes to show today. Okay. And again, split grooming stall. The nice thing about this area too is there's always activity here and there's always someone watching. So the horses are never alone. They have the magnetic blanket on. Someone's always keeping an eye on them. There's always somebody here. At night, it's kind of nice because everyone's here cleaning tack, cleaning bridles, putting the horses away. Everyone's kind of gathered here at the end of the day, going over things and planning for the next day. Every stall has a horse's name on it, what they eat, our phone numbers. We use these at all the horse shows. So just in case there's an emergency, someone knows who to call. And these cards move with the horses. So as we rotate the stalls, the stall cards go with them. We put these doors on the barn because it can get windy here in thermal. So we found that if we could close this end of the barn, we could really keep the dust down. Luckily this year, we have not had to close these at all. So that's nice. Yeah. We bring our treadmill. We have a treadmill that lives on a trailer and we can take it anywhere. We definitely bring it here since we're here for such a long stretch of time. It runs off a generator and the horses love it. So basically it's kind of down in a hole, so it's not too acute of an angle for the horses to have to walk up. Yeah. Good. So treadmill's going usually all day with somebody on it, and it's just another way to move them around. We don't like thinking that they're in their stalls 23 hours a day. So if they're not out going for a walk or being ridden or just taken for a graze or in the paddock, a lot of times they're on the treadmill, just to keep their muscles going, keep them moving, keep them stretching. And then we come over here, and again, because of the wind and the sun and the elements here, we put up these screens. This side of the barn gets afternoon sun, so we're trying to block the sun here. There's our storage. We have a storage trailer there that has all of our extras in it. We can stash. So horses all the way down this side. We have a dog condo down here, which I'll show you. But this is all of this mesh. It's not just regular shade screen. This mesh was kind of a production because it has to be a certain grade for fire retardant. So this is special mesh that's somewhat fireproof. So it all had to be approved by the fire marshal. Yeah. So this is sort of every year we add something. Last year we had just the wall. This year we covered the top. So this is a really nice shady area in the afternoon now, and it almost feels like a center aisle now, which is great.
So basically you're saying that every year you make improvements to the setup.
We do. Every year we do something. So one year we put concrete all across the front. One year we planted the big trees out there, out in the front. This year we built the big planters along the other side, which we'll see to kind of block that from the parking. This year we did the ceiling here. So we brought the trailer as well, the storage trailer. So there's always a project, and we're always looking forward to the next year and thinking what we can do to make it better. More comfortable for the horses, more comfortable for the people, easier for the staff, more efficient to work in.
How many staff members do you have?
Here?
Yeah.
Here we have around 13 grooms and probably 3 to 4 riders. And then Carlton, myself. Yeah. So it's a lot. It's a small city. And it starts buzzing early in the morning. It starts 3:34 in the morning. It's happening. So we can come this way, and I don't know if you want to turn off, but there's the dog condo, so the dogs aren't loose. It's shady for the dogs. Nice and big. And then I guess we can go to the other side. Okay, so here we are on the outside of the barn, and we'll take a little walk down here. We love being in this area. We've had this barn, I think, for probably 8 years. And as I mentioned, we do something to upgrade it every year. But we love being back here. This is barn 14, and we're kind of out of the fray. We're out of the noise, which is amazing. It's a little farther from the rings, but it's so much better for the horses. It's quiet. They actually get some rest. They don't have to hear trucks and tractors and water trucks and speakers and all the stuff going on at the ring. So it's very low traffic here, which we love. So again, same thing, mangers in all the stalls. We added these planters this year just kind of as a buffer, just again, a little more shade, a little more blocking from the traffic. Not that there's a lot back here, there isn't. This horse has a tendency to lean and chew on his gate, so we wrap some bandage flannel around here. Another thing I should bring up is the gates. We use the smaller gates, and they swing, but we put the bungees on them here so that we don't have to snap them every time. So with the bungee on it, it keeps the door closed, so they don't have to be snapped all the time. If we're getting a horse in or out, we take the bungee off, and then the gate swings freely, and you bring the horse in or out. When we close the gate, we put the bungee back on. These bungees live here, obviously. They're screwed in. We put the bungee back on tightly. We always make sure that it's facing out so that the horse doesn't catch his nose or his eye on it. So we do that actually at really all the horse shows where we go, where we hang the gates, we put the bungees on them. Oh, hi. What about the mangers? We discussed the mangers. Would you like to talk about the mangers?
Yeah, the horse brings his hind end up underneath him and picks his back up. So that becomes a natural thing for them to put their head down, pick their wither up, put their hind end up, which is what we're trying to create when we ride them. So it becomes a secondary thing when we ride them because they're muscled up to do it all day long. Serves a dual purpose, saves us on hay, and basically they're built more for their physical well-being. As they eat, you watch which leg they're dominant with putting forward, and that usually tells them which side is dominant, the leg that's farther forward. But they're using their jaw, they're moving their tongue, everything you want when they're in the bridle right now.
So here's the feed room. Again, a lot of lists in here. Come on in. There go some ponies coming from the other barn, from the little pony brigade. Okay. Feed room. It's making a lot of noise.
My job is to stay on mute.
Okay. Again, we have a map of where the horses live in here, so that in the evening when we're doing the feed, all of the low rubber feed tubs come out, and we've put tiles here in this area so that it doesn't get muddy, and we lay all the feed tubs out here, and Lexi and Holly are usually in charge of this because it's a project. All the feed tubs get laid out basically according to the map of where the horses live. So first horse, first feed tub, so they know what goes where. Each horse has its own recipe of what they get as far as supplements, any sort of medication, electrolytes. They all have their own preferences and their own meal that gets prepared for them. So that all happens right here. Then the tubs get run to the stalls. Every day the tubs get cleaned and dried, and they're over there in the wash rack drying right now.
Okay, so I'm gonna get that.
Breakfast. We've served breakfast already.
How many times a day do you
Some horses get fed twice a day if they get certain medications. Most of our horses only get grain once a day. So some of those are probably drying from this morning, and some are drying from dinner last night. So they'll be ready to go. They'll be dry so they don't get kind of gooey and dirty and stuff stuck to them. They'll be ready for tonight. Again, the feeding process probably takes at least an hour. So as I mentioned, each horse has its own preferences and its own recipe. They all get certain things. Some horses get lunch. So there's a list here of which horses get lunch. Some horses get their hay rinsed or wet because they have a little bit sensitive throat, or the dust here in the desert might be bothering them. So that list is here. GastroGuard, we use a lot of GastroGuard, especially at the horse show here. Performance horses in general tend to get ulcers. So basically there have been studies done that 90 to 95% of athletic type performance horses, whether it's show horses or race horses, have some level of ulcers. So a lot of times we don't even bother to scope the horses or do the procedure to see if they have ulcers, because we just assume that they do and we treat them for it. So a lot of the horses live on GastroGuard, not just at the show, but at home as well. It takes a while for it to get in their system. So if you start giving it just when you get to the show, it's not always as effective. So we do that. Cough medicine here, a lot of cough in the desert because of the dry air again. So a lot of the horses get special cough medicine. They'll get it right before they get ridden. It's just a liquid it's legal to show on. It's all natural, and we just shoot it in their mouth. Over here is what I like to call our cookbook. These are all the supplements for every horse. So every horse is listed here, what they get in their food. So they all get some kind of flex. We use a supplement called Flexies, which is made by Western Saddlery, but it's like a Cosequin supplement. They all get that, as well as a hoof supplement. Pretty much all of our horses are on the equine elixir, which again, gut support, ulcers, also makes their coat look beautiful. They love it. So we use the equine elixirs a lot. They all get electrolytes here. And then we get into the special stuff that each horse gets. They all also get some kind of oil in their food, unless they can't tolerate it, unless it, if they can't tolerate it, we don't do it.
What type of oil do you use?
We use soybean oil, wheat germ oil, or corn oil, generally. Yeah. So that's the recipe. This is the kitchen. This is where the magic happens. These are all the different supplements. These are the carrots. Every horse gets carrots in its food as well. Makes it more palatable, makes them more likely to want to eat all their supplements, electrolytes, all that stuff. We want to make sure it gets in them. We want to make sure they actually do get the electrolytes so that they keep drinking here. That's huge for us. We've been lucky. There are a lot of colics in general in the desert. So everyone here kind of knows that and gets ahead of it. So knock on wood, the horses are staying hydrated. A lot of times if we think one's not drinking enough, we'll have the vet come and we'll give it fluids if we have any sort of doubts about its hydration. We just try to get ahead of all that. Here's the grain that we mix. Each horse gets, again, something different. And then more supplements here, and a lot of storage. We have duplicates of everything. For instance, the show bridles, they never get unpacked. When the horse show's over, the show bridles get cleaned. They get stored in a plastic Ziploc bag, and they get put into a trunk or a container that is just show bridles, and it's ready for the next horse show. Everything we have for the horse show usually does not get unpacked at home. The only thing that really gets unpacked at home are the saddles. Everything else stays ready for the horse show. So we don't forget anything. We have everything we need, and it's ready to go. It's clean, it's organized, it has its own place, and it goes to the horse show. So it's the same every time. Everything is the same. The expectation is the same. You know what you have, you know where it is. all the lunging stuff, all the bidding rigs, everything stays packed for the horse show because it is specific to the horse show. So what's really nice is when you come around the corner sometimes and you see the activity and you hear the guys in here and they're singing and they're laughing and they're having a great time. And you know they've been here since 4 a.m. and they didn't get home last night until 8 p.m. And they're just so happy to do their jobs, and we're so fortunate to have them. David, who's been with us the longest, and his brothers, Rodrigo and Eddie, his uncle Paco, they're all amazing. And we have a lot of the same guys who meet us at the shows to work with us at the shows. Esteban, Luis, they're all amazing, and they know the horses, they know our routine, because we do things very specifically, as you probably noticed, and they just jump right in. So it's great, but they have a good time. The guys are so crafty. They make all these little extra things, shelves and containers, and this is all kinds of chargers and extra chargers that go to the ring so nobody's phone dies when they're at the ring. We don't use radios because we find them to be kind of loud and just a little bit
Cumbersome.
Yeah, they're cumbersome. It's one more thing to carry. Everyone hears your conversation. Nobody wants to hear your conversation. So we just use our phones generally. So we have a lot of extra things like this, charging station, charging pieces that everyone can use. And that's courtesy of the guys. It's great. There's Rodrigo.
Hello?
There he is. That's the angle of Rodrigo we usually see right there. And
Where's David?
David generally is at the ring. David manages this whole thing, and he's managing from there. So he's constantly on the phone with all of them. Rodrigo generally stays here, Rodrigo and Eddie, and they're in the barn, making sure that the horses come up with the right equipment, the horses come up on time, and they are constantly in touch with David, who's telling them what's going on at the ring. There's the big boss. There he is. There's David. This is Geronimo. He's, again, doing the magnetic blanket therapy and the ice boots at the same time. So we're multitasking here. So the horses get the spa treatment whenever we can. Let's go find the bridles. That's the boss of everything. We all work for him. Okay, so we like to use these action packers. They're easy to carry versus a trunk that's big and cumbersome, and then we end up with so many trunks. So this action packer is labeled Show Bridles Pony. So the bridles get stored in plastic bags with the horse's name on it. So bridle, martingale, everything is in here. It's ready for the horse show. It lives in here. Everything lives packed. So when the horse show's over, everything gets put back in here. It gets cleaned, put in the bag, packed in here, and then it's ready for the next horse show. All of these basically live in our equipment truck. They don't come out between horse shows. So nothing gets left, nothing gets forgotten, because that's happened before. Not recently, since we have this system, but it's not fancy, but it works. Thank you for joining us today at Aeon Hits Desert Horse Park in Coachella. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to reach out, but come by anytime if you want to see it in person too.